So we're here with Paul Tylla, CEO and originator of Heal, the world's first plant-based meal replacement. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, pretty close. We would say that we're the first complete plant-based meal replacement that doesn't use any synthetic additives, where all of the nutrition is coming from the plants that are used to create the product.
Welcome to the Risk Ready podcast, brought to you by Reliance Insurance. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with the CEO and founder of Heal, Paul Tylla, who speaks on how his personal life inspired his company. Risk exists wherever you are. Are you risk ready?
I know from like what conversations we've had before, you being a firefighter is like just gonna come to an end. At
It
some
always
point in your
does.
life.
Yeah.
I mean, no, but sooner than later.
Yeah, there's the potential for that, for sure.
Okay.
The entrepreneurial ventures that I have and the lifestyle that I want to have certainly live in a world of freedom. So, I just finished my holidays. I went back to the fire hall. Guys always ask you, what'd you do on your holidays? And I said, well,
Work.
to be honest, yeah. I said my holidays is probably exactly what my life will be if I was retired.
Yeah, exactly.
So that rhythm of, and actually there's some questions that are like, how do you start your morning routine? The routine of my day is built around self-care and knowing that there's a myriad of different things that I can work on or focus on.
That's good.
So as long as I'm moving forward in a direction, I look at it more like pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what pieces you're putting in because they all have to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it gives me a little bit of organic latitude around what I'm doing with my day.
Yeah.
Whereas when I'm at the fire hall, it's definitely a construct of to-dos. So
Yeah.
I like that.
It's
I
limiting
like that
you from-
creative freedom.
Yeah. Full-time jobs do that.
Yeah, yeah. It's I guess the difference between business and work, like a job, is I believe personally that if you're truly passionate about creating a business, it's not work.
No, it's
Right.
it's you're doing what you like and what you love.
Yeah,
But a lot of people say that other people that become entrepreneurs say that they left their 8-hour a day job
Yeah.
for a 24/7 job because they're always working, but in something that matters to them
Yeah.
and that fills their soul, right? That they're passionate about. So does that happen to you?
Well, I guess it's how you define working on your business. I don't think anybody works 24 hours a day on their business. But what you do is you create availability in your mind for business-related topics. You can still create some levels of compartmentalization in your life. But if I was to look at it holistically, particularly the types of businesses that I'm wrapping myself in, they're very lifestyle oriented. A lot of the decisions I make around, and you would know because you're involved in one of them, is very much designed around the rhythm of my day.
Yeah.
How can I slipstream? How can I fold things together in a way that it's not so much work as it is a lifestyle?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think business has to be a lifestyle or it's not sustainable. I think burnout comes when people forget that.
Oh, there needs to be a balance for sure.
Yeah.
There needs to be a balance.
Well, you know what? The word balance gets thrown around a lot. I think it's actually more of an integration than it is a balance.
Like a holistic approach, like everything
Yeah.
comes
So if I'm at the gym and I'm there with my son, do I need to create balance in my relationship, or have I just integrated my relationship with my son with my business?
Well, but you have the opportunity to.
That's right. But
Because-
that didn't just happen by chance.
Well, of
Is what I'm
course,
getting
it's
at.
all part of a plan, but not everyone has that opportunity of saying like, okay, I spend time with my son at the gym, but while we're at the gym, like the gym is part of my life and it's also one of my businesses, and also it's also one of my son's businesses, and then Heal is also one of his businesses, and he also works with Heal
Yep.
hand in hand, right?
But what I'm saying is that's by design.
Of course, that's all
Yeah.
part of a plan,
Yeah.
like
So
part of a
I'm-
life plan.
So people can have that if they create the foundation of what matters first. So in
Perfect,
other
yeah.
words, I think that people oftentimes build businesses thinking it's going to give them something at the end, whereas what
Yeah.
I'm actually going is I'm claiming what I want now, so that no matter what happens with the business, I enjoyed the process.
That's good. Yeah, I think that's how it should be. But
Yeah.
because then if you create a business with the idea of just looking at the end goal, you might get disappointed in the road, or like working towards it. In the end, you might get disappointed, like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Like,
Yeah.
I'm always working, I'm always putting my time, and I don't see any rewards, because you're always looking at the end instead of enjoying the process and what you're going through.
Well, I think it's a philosophy of claim. I think that people get caught up in the idea that the outcomes are the success. And
Yeah.
I would actually say that the success is claiming the lifestyle you want and the journey moving in the direction of any potential outcome.
Yeah,
So,
that's pretty interesting. Same happens with people that are like dieting. Are we starting?
This has all been recorded, so
Oh.
continue.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Continue.
A lot of people, same with dieting. Like, a lot of people go like in a diet, or like 3-week, 4-week diet, without actually knowing that what they should be doing is making healthy choices part of their daily life. Because they're always like, oh, I just want to lose XYZ pounds, instead of, oh, today, instead of eating a fried chicken, I'm just gonna bake it, or I'm gonna do it in an instant pot. Like, just making small lifestyle changes to how they eat can improve their weight or how they look over time. I think it's like kind of the same concept you're talking about.
Well, I think that designing something and then the process of actualizing that plan and the incremental steps of getting it done, sure, there's all sorts of ways of unfolding that and figuring it out. So if your plan is weight loss, I would pay more attention to the why. So knowing what you're doing and why is really critical. I would say that most people don't fail, they quit.
Yeah.
On most things in their life. So if you don't have a really strong connection to what you're doing and why, if that isn't really solid in your brain, your claim isn't there. So claim language and the language that you use associated with any goal outcome,
Yeah.
right? And then, you get into concepts of personal ceiling. I was asked about what books I would recommend.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people, particularly when they get into business, forget that really business is about leading yourself and then having the opportunity to perhaps inspire, support, and lead other people.
Yeah.
But it starts with you.
Yeah.
And the ceiling that you create for yourself is a belief system. So that relates back to diet,
Yeah.
exercise, what you deserve in your life, how you create and formulate what you do with your time. If I looked at why I'm involved in Sheepdog CrossFit, why am I somebody who's seen the value of, healthy diet, rest and recovery, time with family,
Yeah.
all of these things nurture the relationship that I have with myself
Yeah.
first, because that's the relationship that I bring into every other relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
So if I haven't created that for me, I'm having a potentially less impactful influence on all my external relationships, both personal and professional. So.
Would you say this is something you've learned from your past endeavors, or something you've learned creating Heal? Like how was the learning process for you to come to here? Like, not everyone has that point of view
No.
on life.
No, for sure.
So I think
for
like
sure.
it's all a process.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes back before heal. I think that every one of us has the opportunity to look at our life like a journey. I think that, again, that's a belief system. I believe that I have an opportunity to choose and create that has an influence on my life and an influence on the world around me.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about the philosophy of how I do things. And I wouldn't say that there was ever one thing that was like a turning point.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say that my life just gave me opportunity, reflections. I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for the people who stepped up to support, help, and influence my life.
Yeah.
And I have a tremendous amount of gratitude just for some of the personal realizations that I've had that have allowed me to understand those things. And then I think the greatest gift, whether they're the applications to my own personal businesses or not, is the ability to share that with others. Not because it's something I think they have to do. It's just information that I believe that people deserve to have.
Yeah.
And, philosophically, I have no emotional connection to what people choose to do with information. So
Yeah, that's one of the things that I actually admire about you. Sometimes, like,
yeah,
not connecting with that. It's
well,
hard. It's hard though.
Well, yeah, and I think that whether it's a business that you're creating or a relationship that you want to grow, if I lean back into the history to answer that question, how many times did I have to interact with a result of a choice? In other words, like, I can't download my experiences into another human being because I think they should be me.
Yeah, but that's the mistake everyone makes.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I never.
A lot of people make.
Yeah, lots of people do. Yeah. And so, I think that even the innovations that, I'm working towards in some of my business endeavors, the creation of new categories. Really, what I'm doing is I'm creating a narrative to design new opportunities, but it's for other people to decide whether or not that's something they want to adopt into their life.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. So my point is that my experiences that have brought me to these realizations are many. I believe that as long as I can look at myself, or a person can look at themselves and go, I'm happy with who I am today, there's nothing about the journey that you should want to change.
Yeah.
Because every single one of those things needed to happen for you to become who you are today.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I practice a lot of gratitude and curiosity daily. I'm grateful for the day, and I'm curious as to what's going to come out of the interactions, the meetings, because I fundamentally believe that life isn't happening to me; it's happening for me.
Yeah, you always tell me that.
Yeah, right. So, how can you fail in that belief system model?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting at, right? It's not about the outcome. It's about appreciating that the journey is happening for you, and that, albeit, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of things that have happened in my life that were excruciatingly challenging.
Yeah.
Excruciatingly. Like, I wouldn't wish them on anyone. But I have so much gratitude for them because they've inspired me to be something more than I was before I was faced with those challenges.
I think I do believe that as well. And like, interestingly enough, one of my wedding vows when I married Caesar was that the good moments led us to be happy, but the bad ones led us to grow. Let us grow. So I do believe that everything that happens to anyone is part of like their journey, and you can only learn from those experiences, either good or bad. Doesn't matter. But yeah, looking at it as the life happening for you is something that I had to learn to kind of adopt, and I hadn't thought about that before. Sometimes I'm very reactive to the things that happen to me because I don't think they're happening for me to XYZ. Like, do whatever I want with it.
Yeah.
And the way I react, the way people behave with me sometimes, or things they say might not be reflecting what I am, but who they are, and the way I react to that is gonna say a lot about who I am, in some way. So.
Well, I think a nice way of saying it is, it's not what you're doing in this lifetime, it's what you were being when you did it.
Interesting.
So people don't remember always what you've done, but they do remember what you were being.
So what do you mean by being?
So your state. So in other words, you can be in business and you can be, a real angry, bossy, mean, successful person. Or you can be a really kind, loving, empathetic, empowering, successful person. In both cases, you're successful. The difference is how people remember you in the process of that.
So you would say one of the differences how you made people feel?
So this is a really interesting thing. So think about it this way. Most people work on their reputation. They're concerned about their reputation. It's actually an epidemic right now in the world, in my opinion. Imagine if everybody just focused on their character. So your character is really the development of yourself, and the person who has to be okay with your character is you. And consistency in character creates something that people can trust, count 100%. On, and choose.
Yeah.
So if you're consistent in your character, you'll attract or reflect, or deflect, I should say, people based on that investment in yourself. So, that's lifestyle. So I attract certain people into my space because I'm fairly consistent inside of my character. I'm not overly concerned with what people think about me. That's their opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not the truth.
Yeah.
And when we let opinion move us personally, or move our business, if we get pulled off track, if we let the gravity of the world around us dictate what we're supposed to be, things can get a little hairy, and ultimately we have somebody to blame. And the minute that you have someone to blame, you've kind of lost that battle. You've succumbed to the idea that life isn't happening for you, it's happening to you.
Yeah, because it's so subjective. Like, you think, that person thinks.
Yeah.
Like, that not necessarily might be the truth.
Well, I mean, I think these platforms are actually a perfect example of how people can interpret information. They can have an opinion. They can
social media has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, create a huge bias. So the consistency inside of me doesn't come from how people are going to interpret this. It comes from me sharing honestly and openly from the values of my character. And I think one of the other things that I would want people to understand is the power of singular choice. I think it's a way underrated concept.
So what's that concept?
Well, you talked about a new way of thinking that you had to adopt or chose to adopt. That was a choice. So how much change can happen in your life with the power of a single choice? So if I look at my brother as an example, who struggled with alcohol and drug addiction, his choice to become sober changed everything about his life. Yeah. There wasn't any piece of his life that didn't change. Why? Because it changed him. Yeah. And so the relationship math of him plus any other person, any other opportunity, any other, simply changed because he worked on himself. And I think owning yourself, owning the power of your choices.
Owning yourself, yeah, that's a big one.
Is probably something that we would observe as not overly common. But that's why I'm saying if people got less concerned about their reputation and paid more attention to their character, you'd find way more successful people. And when I define success, I define that with a sense of purpose and joy that comes out of the things that we choose to do.
Yeah. The lifestyle you choose to adopt.
Yeah. So I'm really big on language. You know me well
Yeah.
enough to know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a really definable difference between state of being and feelings.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that make me happy, but that doesn't mean that they create long-term joy in my life.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things in my life that were extremely challenging. We talked about them.
Yep.
Caring for Linda as an example. Working 24 hours a day for 2 years, caring for another person in desperate need. Some of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. It didn't make me happy, but it brought me joy knowing that I had an opportunity to love somebody and care for somebody in an unconditional way to the best of my ability. You see, so that's something that
In the
I
long
can
run,
I can look at and go, you know what, that was meaningful, and it had a purpose.
You did it. Yeah. There was a why, right?
Exactly. So knowing what you're doing and why.
Okay. So aside being HEAL CEO and originator, you're also a full-time firefighter captain.
That's correct.
You own a gym.
That is also correct.
You're also a dad.
That is also
A
correct.
new dad.
That is also correct.
Okay, why don't you talk about? Why don't you talk to us a little bit more about that? Who are you?
Sure. I mean, like most of you, I'm a person that has lived a little while. I do have 2 adult children, 25 and 26, from my first wife, who is since passed. And fortunately enough, had another amazing woman come into my life, and I now have a 4.5-month-old named Avery. So
he's
starting
so cute.
starting that journey all over again, and the history and the path that's kind of led me to where I am now is one coming through the challenges of childhood into adulthood. Spent some time in the U.S. military during the first Gulf War. Worked as a search and rescue swimmer, and then that segued into a desire to do something that kind of had that similar opportunity experience for me, which translated into a career in the fire service. I've been doing that for about 23 years. And along the way, I've always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
But most of my entrepreneurial spirit is rooted in a desire to find solutions that help people. So whether that's owning the gym that we own, CrossFit,
Yeah.
whether that's some of the endeavors into supporting people with their own personal growth. I've done some work facilitating in different types of programs. And then also leading into, the challenges that my family faced when Linda, my first wife, got ALS, that then segued into, just working to strive to find value in all things.
Yeah.
What could I take from that experience that was something good, because
So you
that's where
mentioned
HEAL
you
was
do.
born. Yeah.
You mentioned you do CrossFit.
I do.
What is CrossFit?
Well, CrossFit is a modality of fitness. It's a branded, trademarked name, but really it's a representation of high impact training. It's an ever varying philosophy of exercise that's built around functional fitness. So it's not really designed for any other particular outcome other than overall health and well-being. And the ability to function inside of the time that you're alive. So,
And why did you choose CrossFit?
Honestly, if I was being completely honest, my first introductions to CrossFit were a desire to spend more time with my son.
Because he was into CrossFit, and you saw he liked it, and you that spiked the spark on you.
No, it was more of inside of having children quite young. I was 22 when my daughter was born. I was 24 when my son was born. Being a young dad, what I learned very quickly is that if I wanted to spend time with my son, I needed to do that in a way that was something that he was interested in. So he loved spending time with me,
Smart.
but he wanted it to be doing things that he enjoyed. So when he was about 16 and finished kind of his interests in soccer, I asked him, well, what do you want to do now for fitness? And he had heard about CrossFit, been introduced to it through some mutual relationships. And I said, okay, well, let's find a gym and let's go give it a try. So
How long have you been doing CrossFit now?
Started CrossFit in 2010, so
Wow.
11
It's been a
years
while.
now. Yeah,
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Me too, actually.
yeah,
I know. I started in 2012, actually. Yeah.
yeah.
2 years later.
So it's a foundational piece of my day and
Yeah.
my lifestyle around holistic health.
I know you've participated in many competitions
Yep.
locally, and you've placed pretty well.
Hmm.
I mean, your mental toughness has a lot to do with that. Can you talk to us a little bit more what competitions you participated in?
Sure.
And like how that has impacted yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the one nice thing about CrossFit for me is I know my personality. I'm driven by competition, and typically it's a competition with myself. So a desire to work in the direction of optimal. How can I move in the direction of paying attention to feedback? CrossFit gives you lots of feedback, and then where do I measure that? Is in competition. So I think that I had been doing CrossFit for about 4 months when I was introduced to the CrossFit Open and did my first online CrossFit competition. And from there I was hooked. I've done the Open every year since. I've done lots of competitions that require qualification.
Yeah.
So
I remember I was a judge once for you.
yeah, for sure.
And the Canvas Games, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Snatches, I think that was the workout I judged you at.
Potentially.
Squat snatches.
I can't remember exactly, but the thing that I love about it is it's a measurable metric that's global. So the CrossFit community allows me to compete against people all around the world. I think on average now there's probably about 15 to 20,000 people in my age group. And on any given year, I usually finish in the top 100 people in the world. So
Awesome.
it gives me an idea of where I'm sitting with my fitness. And it's also feedback to let me know that the other things that I'm doing in my life must be working. So
if we talk about personal records, what would you say is your personal best in deadlift?
Right now I deadlift about 465 pounds. When I started CrossFit, though, when I was 39, my deadlift PR was 365.
So it has come a long way.
It's come a long way.
And that's how you define your success in like
100%.
a movement, right?
100%. And I think that the other thing that it's shown me is that age is a number, and to believe that you have to decline as you age is a belief system that most people adopt.
Unfortunately.
Of course, there comes a time when your body will slow down. That's normal.
But that doesn't mean you have to stop moving.
That's right.
Right?
That's
you just gotta stay active, and that's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just stay active, doing things regularly, right? CrossFit just like incorporates like just day-to-day movements, like a press or a lift from the ground or a squat.
Yeah, the combination of strength, endurance, recovery, gymnastics movements. It's actually a concept that came out of the Navy. It came out of training for Navy SEALs.
Well, CrossFit was created by wasn't he a former Navy SEAL, Greg?
Yeah.
Walker?
No, Greg wasn't, but
Dave.
the concepts of ever varying movements and the idea that being a specialist in one thing isn't going to keep you from the one thing that you're really bad at. Mm-hmm. To test yourself over 10 things versus one thing. So the idea being is you can be a really great runner and really maybe the fastest runner in that event. But if you don't have the strength to pull yourself over a wall, as a Navy SEAL, not getting over the wall is going to be the thing that kills you. So
exactly.
They just simply translated that into regular life for people and said if you want to be fully functional, you would want to be good at everything. Not great at one thing.
Yeah. So like a lot of people see fitness as people just lifting heavy stuff and going very fast and doing crazy things, while fitness is just staying healthy over your lifetime. That's what it is. And how do you stay healthy? Obviously making healthy choices, and exercising and staying active is obviously one of them. I mean, we know we've
For
been in
sure.
this business for a few years.
Well, and I think it's the goal of the individual. I think CrossFit actually attracts people who are a little bit more health conscious.
yeah.
There are
Or
definitely
want to be a little bit more health conscious.
That's right. Yeah, their goals are wrapped in health more than they perhaps are appearance or performance.
Yeah. Aesthetics is not a very big thing in CrossFit.
It's a byproduct.
Yeah.
It's not the reason why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the good.
Yeah.
So COVID,
Yes.
it hit us pretty hard.
It sure did.
In the fitness industry is one of those industries were pretty, let's say, damaged by CrossFit. How is it doing now? Like how's the fitness industry now after COVID? After COVID.
Yeah, I mean, again, strive to find value in all things. I think in a lot of the ways, our business, if I was to talk about the specifics of what I've experienced, has gotten better. We've implemented things to address the need for cleanliness, to give people a stronger sense of space. It's put us in the direction of being a little bit more mindful around the importance of the product and the quality of the experience we create for people, because if COVID showed us anything, is if you don't have a membership, you don't have a business. And so albeit we did get shut down like lots of businesses, and albeit it impacted the business model by limiting the number of people that could come into our gym at any one given time, as we've kind of spit out the back end of that kind of meat grinder, we've actually kept a lot of the things that we had adopted during COVID that have made our business better. And probably going to make it healthier and stronger. And I think that's a philosophy that I've personally adopted in other areas of my life, that challenges are just opportunity feedback. Yeah.
I do think also that CrossFit, if there's one thing that COVID taught us and everyone else, is the sense of being healthy, staying healthy. It's important.
For sure.
A lot of people have like kind of like an eye-opening experience. Well, oh, COVID. What's the best thing I can do? Like, the vaccine is not gonna get me from getting COVID. It's just gonna make the impact less hard. But if I adopt a healthier lifestyle, I might decrease the chance of COVID impacting me as hard as it has impacted other people with underlying conditions. So I think a lot of people have had that eye-opening experience, and also have come into the door saying, oh, here I am, I want to work out, I want to stay active, I want to do what you guys do, with the sole purpose of incorporating some physical activity into my day-to-day routine. Is that something that you think you've seen that in the new people that have come into the gym?
Oh, for sure. I think it, you could see that when we had the first lockdowns, people found ways of appreciating the free time by getting outside. They started to move.
Pivot.
Yeah. Well, I think the minute that something is taken away from you, you want it more.
That's true.
Yeah.
They're prohibited.
Yeah. So there was a lot of people who probably weren't exercising. So as soon as the opportunity to go to a gym was taken away from them, they felt the desire to express that. And it actually started a lot of people moving. I would agree that they also were awakened to the idea that my health is something that I have to own. Yeah. And that there was a lot of conversation through lots of channels around the idea that sleep, exercise, healthy eating were things that were going to boost my immune system. The conversation of immune system has probably never been talked about more in my lifetime than it has during COVID.
Yeah.
And I think that people have decided that that's something that they have control over.
You think you have control over that?
Well, I think that those things are things that you have control over. You do have a choice about what you eat. You do have a choice about whether or not you exercise. You do have a choice about how much you sleep. And so I think it's given people a sense of control that in a lot of ways they feel like they've lost in other aspects of their life with COVID.
Would you say you're leading a healthy life right now? A healthy lifestyle?
Me?
Yeah, yourself.
100%.
Okay.
It's foundational for me.
So let's talk a little bit more. How does that happen? Like, how do you make it happen? How's your morning routine like?
Sure. Well, I mean, it depends on the day. So because I'm a firefighter and I do have a schedule associated with that, my mornings could be that I'm off to the fire hall. It could be that I'm actually getting ready for a day of work on one of my businesses, or potentially maybe I'm, in rare occasion, just going to completely chill and be lazy and
rest.
But
we all need it.
You know, I do have a bit of a systematic list of things that would happen on any given day. So one of those is I always wake up and I drink a glass of water. Number one, I get up, go downstairs, have a full, like
Easy
large glass of water, start hydrating. Depending on the morning, I might have something to eat. But in some cases, I go to jiu-jitsu first thing in the morning. 5:30 a.m. I'm on the jitsu mat, so I typically don't eat anything before I go train jiu-jitsu. Yeah. I might hit my infrared sauna. So I have one at home. I do my best to get into it at least 4 times a week for about a half an hour. Cool. Nice. It's there's a lot of really great research out there on infrared saunas and just that ability to cleanse toxins. The hydration and the cleansing of toxins through exercise or the use of a infrared sauna are well noted. So
nice, interesting.
I bring that into my life. And you know, the other thing is I typically will have a coffee. So whether that's before,
glorious.
So if that's on my way to work solo, if that's on my way home and I'm meeting a family member or a friend, if it's post-workout, I really enjoy the visceral experience of going and having a coffee.
Me too, honestly. I love it.
Yeah. And it's an opportunity kind of set for the day.
Yeah.
You know, I
100%.
I do my best to remove busyness from my life. So one of the other things that I do is I set intention in the morning.
Okay, you write that down or do you set up mentally?
It's the same intention every day.
Oh, okay.
So I wake up every morning with a gratitude and an appreciation for the new day. I create a curiosity in my mind as to what it is that's going to happen in that day. Okay. Knowing there's a plethora of things that I'm planning, but I would say that some of my best days are the ones where I had no idea what was going to happen and it just showed up. And that curiosity stems from, you know, the belief that life isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. Yeah. So that's something I don't just say, that's something I truly believe. And then somewhere inside of that, I start to make a plan. So when I say a plan is, and people often say, man, you seem like you're so busy. What I actually believe is that I'm just being effective, acting on whatever piece of the puzzle shows up on that given day.
Okay, so what would you say is that thing that inspires you every day when you set that intention for the day? What sparks that desire for you to go out there and achieve your goals and of the day, life?
Yeah, no, I would say that inspiration has come through realization. I've just gotten to a point where I realized that life isn't about being happy. I think that's something in our society that is actually driving a lot of sadness, is that people believe that because they're not happy, they're failing. I draw my inspiration from doing things that bring me a sense of purpose and meaning. And a lot of those things are extremely challenging. CrossFit's not easy. Jiu-jitsu's not easy.
No.
Working on business is not easy.
But at the end of the day, they make you feel whole. Like they make you feel like you've achieved something. Like, for example, a CrossFit workout.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at the workout of the day and I'm like, I totally don't want to go do that. But I set my intention of that day, like I want to go to the gym because I want to do 1 hour of physical activity. So I go, and I'm pleasantly surprised when I finish with the fact that I feel good. Like that felt actually way better than what I thought.
Yeah.
So it's the end, it's the bigger picture kind of concept.
Well, and I think that that's how we should be measuring every choice. Is the outcome of the action. I think it's complete lunacy to do things over and over and over again that make you feel bad, or they put you in a position of a state of being of sadness. Why would you repeat those things over and over? So challenges should be measured by the visceral experience at the end of the process. So when people ask me, well, how do you build your lifestyle? Well, I just go out there and I do things, and then I pay attention to the resulting outcomes. Like, what's the feedback from the choice? And so that's allowed me to put things into categories of value for me. It's not that what I do is the right way. I don't believe that. It's just a fit for me. It's a fit for my life.
Yeah, it works for you, for your lifestyle,
100%.
for what you want to accomplish. I mean, everyone's priorities are different.
Exactly.
Everyone's end goals are different. But what you do to get there, many people can go through the same kind of difficulties or same kind of challenges, but the end goal is not the same for everyone.
Well, the experience can be very different.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Because we're all different people with different skill sets, with different values, with different strengths and weaknesses. So I don't think it's about what you choose. It's more about a formula of experience that allows you to navigate and to create a life of value and purpose for yourself. I think so many people are focused on the idea of the answer to happiness is out here, and they're forgetting that really it's about the sense and the state of being that's achieved through owning and controlling your own choices.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Does heal bring you joy?
100%.
Why?
Because it's representative of something that was extremely challenging for my family. My now deceased wife, we were actually legally separated at the time. In 2010 we separated, but in 2016 she was diagnosed with ALS. If you don't know what that is, it's a neurological disease that slowly turns your body off and eventually you die from it.
They call it the Lou Gehrig's disease.
Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah.
So Lou Gehrig was a baseball player that was one of the first identified diagnoses of the disease, and so it in his namesake, that's another name for it. But you know, for a lot of people, you know, they might not have taken the same path. You know, for me, I stopped working. I took a leave of absence from the fire hall. I had 2 adult children with Linda. We were extremely close. I loved her to death. We were parent partners. And the last thing that I would do would be to abandon her and my kids to face that alone. So I stepped into a primary care role for her. Again, an extremely challenging thing. It didn't make me happy.
No.
But it brought me joy to know that I had been gifted with a skill set. The fire department gifted me with a lot of skill. My nature.
That's all part of the plan.
It's all part of perhaps the master plan. Yeah. And a willingness to
without you actually planning it. I mean, because you didn't become a firefighter to take care of Linda.
No.
But because you had that skill set, you were able to step up to that role. I mean, your 2 kids, how old were they when Linda was diagnosed?
18 and 20.
Yeah, so you kind of had to assume that role, that position of like, oh, I need to help the mother of my children, who's going through an extremely challenging time, and that's how heal.
Well, I mean, that was the thing that introduced me to the challenge that people face that are sick, is that we feed our sick as people are sick as food. You know, just to kind of round the corner on the question is why does heal allow me to feel like it has a purpose or a meaning, is because the situation that we faced as a family has inspired something that is a legacy for Linda, and the loss that we all observed in our family.
And
we
that
turned
was
it into something that's now a gift for others.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what was that situation like? How like what challenge did you face that made you think about
Heal?
heal? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Linda, one of the things with ALS is that you eventually lose the ability to talk, you lose the ability to swallow, you lose the ability to move. And in those cases, to sustain life, most of those people end up on a feeding tube. It was when Linda was put on a feeding tube that I was introduced to the synthetic formulations that people like Linda are fed. Highly processed ingredients. All the nutrition is coming through synthetic isolates, and these things don't bode well for health. They're not optimal forms of food. They're actually more of a subsistence. It's stuff that will keep you alive, but you certainly aren't going to have an advantage of gaining your health back. Mm-hmm. And for me, what I felt with Linda, and I feel for everybody, is that in your time of need, you don't deserve the worst thing that they could be given. You deserve the best.
The best quality, yeah.
The best quality. And so instead of giving Linda those synthetic formulas, having a bit of a sports background and a nutrition background as a result of that, I just looked at it and said, well, I can do better than this. I can make this at home. And that's why I call myself the originator of Heal, is literally I started formulating at home, blending with organic, non-GMO ingredients, looking at some superfoods. What were the things that were going to allow her to be the healthiest sick person anyone had ever met? And I would say that Linda was probably one of the healthiest people from the standpoint of nutrition, although she was facing a disease that wasn't cured by Heal. Her quality of life wasn't, also hampered by some of the other things that oftentimes go along with those synthetic formulations. She probably had observed better energy. She wasn't struggling with constipation. She never developed bed sores. And I think one of the other things that in reflection I've discovered through the process of creating Heal is that Heal's actually not just, or that original intention, I should say, because it heals for everyone.
Yeah.
It works and is a benefit to healthy and sick people.
Oh yeah, my husband has it all the time.
100%, right? But the one thing that I actually realized, because that was obviously my focus, was to support people that didn't have choices, to give them a choice. Not that they had to choose it, but they deserved an alternative.
Better, yeah.
Was that it's not just for the sick person. It's also for the caregiver. Mm-hmm. Because if I reflect on how it made us feel to give Linda something better, we did our best.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people live in a position of regret. And if Heal can do a couple of things, it can give people something they can trust. It can save them a tremendous amount of time, because blending and all that kind of work is not something that comes easy. And ultimately gives them their time back so they can spend more time doing the things that they deserve, create memories.
So you would say that's part of your commitment with
100%.
With Heal, creating Heal. Here we have the complete the
meal
tub
replacement
for adults.
Yep.
And then you're also coming down with a new little thing there.
Yeah. So what we've got right now is we've got the complete plant-based meal replacement. This is basically designed to replace products like Boost and Ensure, but at the same time, from an athlete's perspective, and we see it at our gym, to deliver all your vitamins, minerals, probiotics in a complete food-based form that also gives you 25 grams of protein. It's really great for people in general.
So Heal equals 2 plates, 2 servings of fruits and vegetables?
Well,
is that what you say?
In Canada here, it's basically the standard is now half a plate.
Okay.
Right? Or so, I would say that it's like 3 or 4 servings of fruits and vegetables in each serving of Heal. Nice. We've also then been able to formulate that into a nutritional support for kids.
For picky eaters.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how hard is it to get your kids to eat fruits and vegetables?
I can tell you, very hard.
Yeah. And thirdly, we actually have a formulation that's just going into production now that has got more of a primary focus on what's called a sole source liquid diet, which supports the sickest people. But the cool part about that is that, formulations that were designed for Linda's feeding tube, you could never drink. They had no palatability. But because we're making everything from natural ingredients, even our sole source liquid diet tastes like mixed berries and vanilla.
Yeah, it's just like
it's food.
Yeah, it's
the
real food.
The innovation is really how we're making it, and that something that people used to look at and go, well, food can't be medicine because how do you measure it? We've actually come up with a way that you can not only measure it, but you can meet some of the highest standard requirements in food, like these types of guidelines, and almost compound these ingredients like medicine.
You talk from a point of view of a we.
Yes.
You have a team behind you?
I do. So
who are they?
There's some co-founders that came along in the beginning, and interestingly enough, one of the things that I'm really good at is asking for help.
Picking people.
and I think that when you are willing to be transparent, when you're willing to be vulnerable, and you believe in what you're doing, the right people will show up. So some of my co-founders are, and actually one of the first people I approached is a gentleman by the name of Jordan Birch, near and dear to my heart. Asked him if he wanted to help me do this.
Amazing human being.
Yeah, absolutely. He brings his own acumen, but he knew Linda through some of our other ventures.
Yeah.
And he was 100% all in. I think both of us had absolutely no idea how to do it. We just had really strong claim around what we were going to do. The next person that I approached is a gentleman by the name of Jay Kalu. And interestingly enough, as I started to introduce myself to people, they were inside of my network already.
Yeah.
Jay was actually a member of our gym at the time. He was working.
Really?
Yep, he was working at Cisco. He had been there for about 17 years, consulting them on their organic program. Nice. And I just knew that he worked in food.
Yeah.
So as soon as I decided that I wanted to make a food product, I just approached him and told him what I was getting ready to do. What I didn't know is that he had faced a lot of his own personal health challenges. His sister had actually ended up on a feeding tube as a result of a stroke. So there was a real personal connection for him to see it succeed.
It mattered to him,
100%. And then another amazing person that I was introduced to through, again, just getting Linda out into community is a woman by the name of Dr. Stacy Doyle.
So it's good to point out that you have a doctor in your team.
I do have a doctor on my team. Yeah, I would say that, her opportunity influence is that she's been a practicing physician for about 20 years. But one of her big focuses is realizing that food is medicine, and she actually has her own consulting company called Food Therapy MD, where when I met her, she was consulting people, and all of her medicine was in support of diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and cancers, but they were all food-based formulas. So she has a real passion and interest in the science behind food and the medicinal quality of some of these ingredients. So she's a real great addition to the team. But again, where we see each other is if I was one side of the coin as the caregiver realizing the problem, she was on the practitioner side realizing the problem, and that in North America particularly, we've ignored food as a factor. We've leaned so much into medicine.
Well, because the thing is, people have a reactive mentality. I get sick. I got sick. I'm going to go to the pharmacy. I'm going to grab my prescription and I'm going to heal. But the reality is that food helps you prevent getting sick. And that's right. And that's something a lot of people, a lot of people have been more aware of that now. But before, people didn't think about that. So that's actually very interesting about Heal, that it helps you feed the sick people, but it also is going to help the healthy people prevent from getting sick.
100%.
It's food. It's whole food. It's good food. It's fruits and vegetables. It's what your body needs to stay healthy and boost that immune system, along with a bunch of other things that we all should be doing to lead a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, let's be real. People in North America are not in starvation for calories. There's an abundance of food available to us.
Milkshakes, burgers, pizza,
Right?
everywhere.
But what we do have is an extreme deficiency of nutrient-dense food.
Yeah.
So what Heal is it's actually packing a tremendous amount of nutritional density into a very small meal.
Yeah.
That can allow people to get that. And then a lot of the ingredients, because we're meeting this guideline set out by Health Canada, is their measures of volumes of these different types of ingredients. You know, the daily percentages of why do you need X of X. You know, the truth is that micronutrients. So these are the vitamins, the minerals.
Yeah.
These are the things that your body uses to make its own medicine.
Yeah.
So the old adage, you are what you eat, isn't just about fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. It's also about the micronutrients.
A lot of people forget about that.
Well, and those are the things that are actually key for brain and organ function.
Yeah.
And you touched on something that this is good for healthy people who don't want to get sick, and this is good for sick people who want to get healthy. Well, that's because the biology of a professional athlete and the biology of somebody with cancer is exactly the same.
Yeah.
There is really no difference.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't feed our top level athletes Boost and Ensure. So why do we feed that to sick people who, so if the goal for the athlete is performance, we give them the best of the best. If the goal for the sick person is to have their body perform optimally for healing, then we need to give them the exact same thing. And that was my realization. I think that that's kind of the crescendo to why I'm doing what I'm doing, is I looked at Linda and said, you know what, if I was her, I would want the best inside of the opportunity. And that just translated and segued into, well, this is an opportunity to give that to everybody.
I mean, because we all know, I mean, people that are familiar with the disease, ALS is a terminally ill disease. But your goal was to give Linda the best quality of life you could.
Regardless.
While she was earthside, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
regardless what you needed to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Heal is a shake, right?
So basically, I mean, the word shake is Heal. Really, what it is the majority of it is freeze dried plants, fruits and vegetables.
Okay, let's stop right there.
Sure.
Let's do a little challenge here.
Okay.
You're gonna make Heal.
Yep. We've got one mixed up.
And in 20 seconds, you're gonna tell me as many ingredients as you can.
Oh wow.
Of Heal.
Okay. When I'm pouring or just as I'm pouring?
I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1, go.
Sure.
You know, AMRAP.
Yep.
As many ingredients as you can in this case,
sure.
Instead of as many repetitions as you can. And in 3, 2, 1, go.
Got it. Peas, rice protein, lentils, broccoli, spinach, kale, lactobacillus, shiitake mushrooms, strawberries, blueberries, cranberries, banana, coconut.
Stop. That was good enough. A lot of ingredients. How many we have there?
Yeah, we got through, I think, a good percentage of them. There's rounded up or to an even number. There's about 40 different fruits and vegetables that provide some form of ingredient to the product. And when you ask me the question, is it a shake? Well, yeah, it's a shake in that you shake it up and you get a product. But really what we're doing is we're taking these fruits and vegetables. They're freeze-dried, most of them at source. And what's really cool about that, and this is part of our innovation, is that when you freeze dry something, what you're doing is you're removing the water, okay? And water is an oxidizer. So, we all have flowers that we bring home and they're beautiful when we pick them, but they wilt and then they start to die. Well, that is actually happening because of water. So the oxidative quality of water is to take things that are living, that die, and turn them back into dirt. Make sense?
Yeah.
Well, when you remove the water, what you do is you actually stabilize that plant. You stabilize the nutrition. You've removed the water, and it's easily converted into a powder.
Oh, yeah.
So then these powders can be measured by weight They can be tested for nutritional values. And then based on that knowledge, you can start to mix them in a way that allows you to get particular nutritional results that you want to have. And that is kind of what I'd say the macro explanation of how HEAL is created, is we blend these things together to meet these particular standards. And the byproduct is something that really tastes good, but all of the nutrition is coming from the phytonutrient in the plant. That's a fancy way of saying the vitamins and minerals that just naturally occur in the different plants that we use. If you read a vitamin or mineral in an ingredient list,
You have it on your website, right?
No, if you're looking at a product and you're reading the ingredients and you get
an actual product, yeah.
You get down the list and then you start seeing words like iron, magnesium, calcium. Well, guess what? Those aren't actually coming from a natural source. Those are synthetically created in a lab and added to your food. So the fortification of food is really the introduction of synthetic isolates into otherwise highly processed foods that don't have nutritional value. The challenge there is they don't interact with your body the same way they do when they come from a natural source like a plant.
Okay, and that's what HEAL.
Yeah, so spinach, in other words, iron from spinach is very different than iron that comes from a vitamin, right? So we know that our body absorbs it. And actually what's really cool is, if you think about the way nature works, is the perfect amounts of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, along with the micronutrient designed to be delivered by any given plant, is in perfect balance when you eat the whole plant. That's why the word whole food diets are so popular. Yeah. And arguably why you don't want to break your foods into pieces. That's what freeze drying allows us to do. All we're really doing is removing the water. Everything else is still there.
So if people want to know like which are the actual ingredients, like HEAL, like the whole list, they can find it on the website, right?
100%.
HEAL
so
in a meal.
HEALinameal.com is our website. What's in HEAL would be the click on. You get to see a picture of Stacy, and the ingredients are listed and a little bit more information around the specifics of some of the ingredients and the food values. So
cool.
Yeah.
When did you start this project? Like how long ago?
So I started the concept of HEAL in about 2017. We had our first product done in 2019. So it took about a year and a half to formulate HEAL. Working with one of the top food scientists in North America, obviously my influence and the influence of people like Dr. Stacy, and working in the direction of meeting that guideline, HEAL was born, and we're not stopping here. We really see the value
new
of
things coming.
Well, I mean, you've brought me on this podcast obviously because you're in the business of insurance.
Yeah.
And I have life insurance, and I know what some of those tests are like, and they want to know that the people that they're insuring are healthy. So they have you do a physical or a medical to kind of qualify those things. But, how great is it to know that, if people are educated, and if they do realize some of the things that we discussed around COVID, that you have an opportunity to ensure that you are going to live longer, healthier lives. Well, that's a huge benefit to everyone, including the people that are insuring you. I mean, I would want to know that people are making good choices.
Well, yeah, for sure, 100%. Right? If we're talking about life insurance, that's
well, it's funny because we ask questions like, what do you smoke? Do you drink?
Yeah.
Well, how about what you eat?
True. I eat burgers and pizza all day.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
All entrepreneurial projects come with some risks.
Of course.
Attached to them. What is something you wish you hadn't known when you started HEAL that like you didn't know then, but you know now?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a question I kind of chewed on. The truth is that I kind of have a philosophy around that. I personally don't really believe that there's anything that I would have wanted to know now that I didn't know then. Because all of those amazing people showed up because of what I didn't know.
Oh, true.
That the process and the journey has brought me to now a place of understanding lots of things that I didn't know then about, food, about business, about our environment. What I would rather say is, what is it that I would want people to know versus what it was that I wished I knew then? I'd rather focus on what I can share
So what is that?
Well, it's a pay it forward strategy. I guess that like being on this podcast, what I would want people to understand is that there are well-intentioned businesses, there are well-intentioned entrepreneurs, and if you're one of those types of people and you know what it is that you want to do and why you're doing it, you have every opportunity to succeed. You just have to be willing to interact with the challenge.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Yeah. So that's really I think the intestinal fortitude, so to speak, right?
That's something that's the kind of advice you would give to someone that's starting a business.
Yeah.
Or entrepreneurial career.
Well, I mean, what I would say to somebody that's starting a business of any type is make sure, like you said, you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. You asked me some questions about what inspires me.
Yeah.
Know what inspires you.
Yeah, 100%.
Recognize that this isn't going to make you happy, but it might bring you joy if what it is you're getting ready to start or create has meaning and purpose in your life or serves a purpose or a meaning to other people. And I'm a big believer in building businesses that steward solutions, don't profit off of people. So when I started this company, I didn't have an intention of creating a really profitable company to make me lots of money. What I wanted to do was create an amazing company that would become very profitable so I could continue to create amazing solutions. For people, yeah. And I think that that's something that I think a lot of people mistake when they get started. Because actually, believe it or not, we might think it, but very few people are actually motivated by money. Most people are actually motivated by emotion and feelings.
Why do you say that?
Why do I say that? Well, because the concept of I want more money, yeah, well, we all want more money because we believe that we can do things with it.
Yeah.
But to what lengths are you willing to go to get it? Are you willing to hurt your neighbor? Are you willing to sacrifice your family? Or you see what I mean? So the flip of that is, am I willing to do things to help my neighbor, to love my family that make me money?
Yeah.
Do you see? Yeah. So it's the order in which you
Makes
put
sense.
the priorities. So if you know that what you're doing, CrossFit gym, Heal, iPhone, communication, electric cars, Tesla, like these types of innovations, the future of business is, in my mind, it's stewarding solutions that are actually going to make the world a better place.
So look, what's happening is very interesting.
Yeah.
We see the berries there.
Yeah.
Let's try. Let's take a sip.
So this is really cool. Yeah.
Pass me one.
Pass that down.
Thank you.
So let me explain that to you. This is actually something that we took the time of explaining on our social media.
Yeah.
Because when Heal sits, it starts to settle and separate. Most products of this type
And you can see. Are those the berries?
No, that red is actually beets.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a lot of products don't want or companies don't want their products to separate. And so they add things in that suspend and hold them in a particular state.
And
to me, that's an additive. Right?
Cesar has been preparing Heal in my house. I've never seen this. Like, I've never let it sit and see that.
If you let it sit long enough, you'll actually get a layer on a full serving that's about an inch and a half
That's pretty
deep.
cool.
Yeah. Because certain things are heavier than others.
Yeah.
Right? The proteins actually fall to the bottom. The fiber falls to the bottom. And the more juice-based ingredients will float to the top because every plant has a different density based on the amount of fiber, right?
Yeah.
So,
Nice. That's super cool. Okay, so just to wrap everything up.
Sure.
I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
What is one lesson that everything you've done, the firefighting, the job at the fire hall, when you were at the U.S. Navy, your ownership role at the gym, Heal, your experience with Linda, your experience with your children, has taught you that you would want other people to learn as well?
Wow,
at some point.
It's a big one. I would, if there was one statement that I would want people to adopt, and it's not an easy one because loss is hard. Yeah. Okay, losing people that we love.
It's the hardest thing.
Is the hardest thing.
It's the hardest thing, point blank.
Through all of my different experiences, the one thing that brings me solace and a feeling of meaning and purpose through all of that is striving to find value in all things. So I'm going to say that again. Strive to find value in all things.
All things meaning?
Everything that happens in your life, including loss. So I could have easily fell into a deep despair. I could have easily been angry and blamed the world around me for, not caring more for Linda and not doing better for her. Or I could look at that situation and ask myself the question, what value can I draw from this? And if people paid more attention to the challenges that show up in their life and ask themselves the question, what's the value in this for me? What can I draw from this that's going to allow me to build my character, allow me to grow, and perhaps is actually an opportunity for me to have meaning and purpose in my life. It all starts with that basal statement, right? Strive to find value in all things.
Yeah.
Elon Musk isn't crying about, gasoline automobiles. He just sees the value in creating an alternative. The challenge is gasoline automobiles, the greenhouse gases and global warming. He's a solutions mindset, and as a result of that, he's empowering people to choose something that allows them to feel like they're making a difference.
Yeah,
that didn't come from anything other than him striving to find value in the problem.
Yeah, finding solutions to.
Yeah, that's what I would want people to know. So whether that's personally or professionally, if you have an acceptance, if you realize that life should be built on gratitude, be grateful for everything that happens. It's not easy. But know that there is a silver lining. There is an opportunity.
Silver lining.
You just have to be willing to see it.
Key term.
Yeah.
Key term. We sometimes we cannot see it because we're too focused on the bad, and we cannot see that silver lining.
Well, we've been taught to blame.
Human beings. That's how we work.
That...
Okay, just to end, what are 3 books that you will recommend our audience and why?
You bet. I had to think about this.
It's actually good.
Yeah.
I'm
awesome.
telling you.
Good. I'm glad you like it. It's amazing how nature just allows things to taste good when you put them in together and you don't try to turn them into chocolate or vanilla. So, the 3 books. The first one is probably a fairly well-known book. And I think that it's just something that whether you're in business or in your personal life, it can be a huge benefit. It's called The 5 Love Languages.
Oh, yeah.
It's by Gary Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
And, lots of people have heard of it, but I don't really think that everybody understands the application. So particularly as somebody working in business and when you're working with different types of personalities, the ability to understand how a person gives and receives love is extremely powerful in supporting them in the direction of that common goal.
Yeah,
right?
I think we've talked about a lot about that before.
Yeah. So and the beautiful thing of it is it's so supported by opportunities to learn what your love languages are. You can go online and do the test. I love the way that the book is written because it tells stories of people. Yeah. And I mean, imagine if people really understood what makes you feel loved in all aspects of your life.
I'm words of affirmation.
Yeah.
100%.
See, so the point being is that when you actually understand somebody's love languages, and there's some other things that can also be factored in. But to me, as a book that is an easy read and an opportunity for you to learn about, the people in your life, starting with yourself, that's a big one.
It's a good one.
Another book that I think has a tremendous value, particularly for entrepreneurs, or people that are running any type of organization, is the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell.
I haven't read that one.
Yeah, it's John C. Maxwell is for sure considered one of the leaders in the leadership field. And I think that if you're somebody who truly is designing something to help others and you really want to have the opportunity to inspire, It's a really great book. I think that steward driven leadership. So to realize that you're stewarding people in the direction of a common goal requires leadership. It requires understanding, and that book is really helpful for people getting on track. And then one that I'm actually currently chewing on right now that I've kind of just gotten through that is at the tip of my tongue is a book called Play Bigger. It's actually a group of authors. I'm going to have to look to actually see their names. So Al Radman, Dave Peterson, Christopher Lockheed, and Kevin Manny. And these are guys that came out of the tech industry, most of them from Silicon Valley, and have seen lots of companies rise and fall. And the primary focus of the book is to identify and develop a category. So obviously in the tech industry, identifying innovation is a huge part of that. But what the book supports you in understanding is there's the development of product, there's the development of a company, and then there's the development of the category that product solves the problem, right? Because in other words, if people don't identify with the category, particularly if it's a new one, they're never going to know that they need your product.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they need to have the problem first. And look for
that. For sure. So it's a really great tool for people who have an innovative solution.
Nice. It sounds interesting.
To understand how to formulate a way of thinking and build a company and attract people to seeing it as the value add in their life, ultimately in the goal of becoming a category king. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Always conversations with you. I'm gonna say they support my growth. It's always good talking to you and learning about your experiences and how you approach life. It's pretty interesting.
Well, that's a complete honor, and like I said, care to share, but just don't have an emotional attachment to the outcome.
I'm still working on that.
You'll see people start to shine.
I'm still working on that. Not personally, emotionally attaching to things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.